okay, Hillary's gone, you have to sit there, Hillary's gone, you have to sit there, and I don't sit out there at all, they're going to be going, geez, boy, it must be nice to be able to do that. But, I mean, it's, you know, Hillary's going to be gone this afternoon, I'm going to be the one sitting out the front desk. So I mean, it's not as much, you know, delegating to other people, you know, what they need to do all the time, but also being willing to do those things too. It's, you know, no different with the different things that you see. I heard someone talk about Chad Greenway at a Minnesota Vikings training camp when he was first there. You know, all everyone was running back into the locker room and everything else like that, and everything else, you know, and there was a pop bottle on the ground. You know, he picked it up, threw it away on his way in. Okay. That's just the things that he did. Now, I mean, that was his rookie year. Right now, he's leading the Viking defense. Is picking up the pop bottle, you know, relate to making more tackles? No, but it also does talk about a little bit about his values and what he does and everything else like that along the way with those things too. So, policy. That was another one. And like I said, these are no rhyme or reason whatsoever with all that. I heard someone talk about policy once, and they said make sure that policy helps you, is your guide to make your decisions, but doesn't make your decisions for you. And by what that's saying is, you've got your policies, no matter where you're at, whether it be in your classroom, place of work, you know, even at home, you've got your rules at home. You know, let those policies be your guide to make your decisions. Don't let them make your decisions for you. For example, I had a good example of that, but now I can't remember what it was. Let's say Ms. Russell has do you have a policy about late grades or anything else like that? Okay, what's your policy about late grades?
If it's late, they get 5 points off. If it's not in before like then they have a break. Like they had till midterm, you get the first stuff in, and then it was zeros if they didn't.
Okay.
And
okay, so let's say that's her policy, and I'm going to make up stuff here just a little bit. So let's say that, you know, talk to Frank, and Frank was going to get all the stuff submitted, and then all of a sudden we had a big ice storm, knocked down electricity, everything else like that. Frank was going to send all that stuff in the night before. Now all of a sudden there's no electricity, and the stuff comes in when the electricity comes on at you know, 6 o'clock the next morning. Well, she could say, well, I wasn't in by midnight, you're out of luck, you don't get the points. But she could also say, well, I know the electricity was out, that would be the reason why you didn't get it in, or why I didn't get it at that point in time, so I will still give you credit for that. I mean, that would be an example of her, you know, letting policy be her guide, but not being exactly finite with that. And I don't know how you handle that, so I hope it doesn't, you know, do a brainstorm and electricity goes out, so you won't do anything. But anyway, but I mean, it's sometimes it's just using kind of your common sense with some of those things too, with all that. I mean, there have been different instances where, as you look at the policy, you know, you're going, well, that's what the policy is, but it doesn't make sense. There was a high school in South Dakota, drug dogs went there, hit on a car in the parking lot that this girl had just bought. Okay, so there was some marijuana in the car. Okay, the girl got expelled for having marijuana on school property. Okay, she just bought the car, wasn't her dope, okay, and she still gets expelled. To me, that's not letting policy, that's letting policy make your decisions and not looking at all the facts to use policy as a guide. I mean, you know, it's, you know, she'd had the car like 3 days, whatever. And even like in hunting season, if guys got their truck out in the field, who knows what they can run over and pick up and get an offender with some of those things that a dog might hit on. But that's kind of what I'm thinking about here with that policy piece with that too. So, making decisions. I'm one who I will make a decision when I need to make a decision. For example, when I was coaching football, obviously if we need to know what we're going to run the next play, something like that, that's a decision that has to be made right away. If we have a student comes in and let's say their entrance test is a little off, and we're trying to figure out what we need to do, and it's a Friday afternoon, well, I might not make that decision right away on Friday. I might wait till Monday, or when we need to make that decision. There's been other things too. I mean, it drives some of the people I work with crazy because they want an answer right now. I know it drives my own kids crazy at home because when they get in trouble and I delay punishment for a while until I have a chance to think about it, that bothers them even more. But I, you know, you know, I find that a lot of times as I'm getting ready that morning to go to work or whatever, the answer kind of just comes to me after I've sat and thought about it or whatever and slept on it for a night. So I mean, so don't make a rash decision when you don't have to make it. Now, granted, there are some times that you have to make a decision and you just go with it. I mean, we were out at the gun show. My kids swim, so the Mitchell Aquatic Club was selling raffle tickets out there, and a little bit of confusion. We thought we were going to set up in the lobby, had to set up in the arena area, so we had to pay $30 for a table. Okay, well, you know, I said, yep, we'll do that. I mean, that was a decision that had to be made right away. I couldn't go back and ask the board or get some advice or anyone else like that. I had to make that decision right away. But something you can wait on the decision. I mean, and we'll talk a little bit more about that as we go along too. Some other little things. Wear a name tag. Now, when you're out in the world of work, I mean, most often than not, you're going to see people with a name tag on. And that does a couple things. One, if I'm walking down the hallway now and someone sees this on and they're lost, they don't know where to go, you know, they can come up and ask me, you know, hey, you know, I can't find the Oak Room. Can you help me there? I'm looking for an admissions office. And so you can help out with that. The other thing too is when I approach them and ask them if they're lost, they don't think I'm just some, you know, random guy walking down the hallway either. I mean, they know that I'm working here with all that. This day and age is kind of crazy with some of those things, but it's nice to know who the people are that are working in a facility with that. I mean, it's part of our procedures. If the building goes on lockdown, you have to have a name tag to get in. You know, so those things are important that way also. But it also helps to identify you, and it kind of comes back to some of that stuff about being part of a team too. I mean, if you know, we all have our ID badges. I mean, they're all the same because we're all part of the same team here at Mitchell Tech with that. So, phone messages. And this kind of comes into some of the communication pieces with all that too. On our phones in our office, we can set like an out-of-office reply. And a colleague of mine, when I first started here, every day she would change it so people knew where you were at. And it really, I really thought that was a good idea, and so I do that now too, and I get it most days. But once in a while I'll forget. There's a reason behind it, I'll tell you that in just a second. But anyway, so like today, when I got here this morning, I dialed in and said, hey, you know, this is Scott, it's Monday, October 29th. I've got a, you know, 11 a.m. presentation to a class, and then I'll be at the front desk from 2 to 5. So that way if someone calls and is looking for me right now, they're going, oh, well, he's in class. You know, so they know if it's something important, you know, they can press through, obviously, to get back to the main menu, but it kind of gives them an idea. Same thing.